Hello and welcome, everyone. It is great to welcome you back to Agency Growth Events. Today, we are partnered with accessiBe to deliver a very important topic to you, the return on investment of web accessibility for agencies. And with that return on investment, we don't only mean a financial one, but also a moral one, because we know it's the right thing to do. We will be covering four aspects of this topic. And first, we will look at why. Why should agencies care? Why should agencies make sure that their work that they do for their customers, for their brands, actually is covered by the standards like ADA or WCAG? And then the how. If we want to do it, then we need to know how to do it. 98% of the web today is not built with accessibility in mind. So that's a huge undertaking. And doing all these sites one by one might not be the best way to take us there. We'll cover that topic too. And then we'll talk about the business side of things on what it means for you, the agency, for your business, and also your customer's business. Will it enable you to actually unlock more growth for yourself and also for your clients? And then, last but not least, we will be covering the legal side of things because we know these standards are to be complied with. And we will learn what it means if you don't comply with them and if you get caught on the wrong side of the law. So, without further ado, I'll just introduce you to the speakers of the day. First off, I'll introduce Alycia Anderson. She's an accomplished TEDx motivational speaker, a writer. She's a corporate inclusion consultant and founder of the Alycia Anderson Company. Hi, Alycia. Great to have you. And then we have Hans, who will also be hosting the event. Hans is one of accessiBe's leading partner managers. And when we say partner, he will tell you more about what it means to become a partner with agencies. Then we have Jimmy Newson. Jimmy is the founder and CEO of Moving Small Business Forward. It's a membership-based digital publishing company. He will talk about the business side of things. And then last but not least, again, we have Yan Margolin, a New York City attorney who focuses on commercial litigation, the guy you don't want to see on the other side of the courtroom. So without further ado, I'll give the floor to Hans. Hans, take it away.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I just want to say to our speakers as well, hello. I know backstage there was a little bit of a lag on my end, and it seems to be continuing. So we'll have to plow through this. But yeah, we recently did a similar event, and I know we had a good time. There was some heavy topics being discussed, and I want to bring it up again in a more palatable manner. So I guess really just to kick things off, I want to introduce accessiBe. Um, and for those of you who are not familiar, accessiBe is the first and only automated solution that helps bring sites to ADA compliance. Um, we protect over quarter million websites at this point. It's so fast we can barely catch up. And there's a lot of movement going on right now in this industry, particularly because everything has become digitized over the past 2 years since the beginning of the pandemic. Everything from shopping to education, right? I'm sure many of us have kids who sit on Zoom calls, even till this day. And for that reason, we need to make sure that the infrastructure that we are using is available to everyone, no matter their capabilities. So, with that being said, I really just want to kick things off to Alycia and briefly, from your own personal experience, if you could just share how it feels for you to use the online world in its current condition. Um, why agencies are really change makers when it comes to integrating accessibility to every website they create and manage. And if you could talk about your experience, that would be
Yeah.
great.
So, hi everybody. Thanks for having me. Web accessibility today is pretty inconsistent. We all know that on this panel. But the opportunity there for people with disabilities, which I am one of them, is endless and limitless when we start to open up the accessibility and the availability of accessibility tools with on the web. And at this stage in life, like you're saying, technology is ramped up and we're all using it, and it allows people with disabilities freedoms to not only become employed but have access to goods and services. And the reality is we don't get to choose if we're setting up a brick and mortar company or an online company, who our customers, our clients are going to be. And of course, there's a moral compass that is it's the right thing to do to create accessibility tools for everyone. But over 1 billion people have a disability. It's the largest marginalized group in our world, and there's a
Mhm.
huge return on investment and opportunity for companies to start to look at these things as an overall business model to benefit the company, instead of an afterthought that you have to catch up on. And in doing that, accessibility leads to innovation and tools that we all use universally. So there's a huge value proposition for companies to start looking at this philosophy in a different way. And from a disability perspective, we're all going to be disabled at some point. 1 in 4 of us, broken leg forever, or anytime in between, aging, illness, blind, there's anything can enter our lives. So these things benefit all of us. And I think we're starting to have that shift in philosophy today, where companies are starting to really see the value in it. So it's a powerful conversation, and it's amazing that y'all have tools that are leading the charge to really help facilitate some of these things in a very intuitive way.
I just read that the CDC put out a new report, and it's 26% of the US population. And to think that 26% of the population cannot equally access a site is just astounding in sheer numbers. And there's such a strong business case to be made as well, right? And I really like to have the conversation of why it's the right thing to do. I mean, let's face it, it's 2022, right? Let's go with the program. DEI should be paramount for everyone. And if it's not, fine. There's still a reason for you to do it, right? The
Yeah.
business case. And we are going to speak a lot about that in just a moment. But there is a legal side of this. And Jan, this is your area of expertise. And I just want to kick it off a little bit and just have you introduce yourself and talk about legally what is this whole accessibility venture
Sure,
all about?
sure. Hello, everyone. So I am not here to comment on the moral side or one side. There's a whole discussion about this. That's not what I'm here for, right? So let me tell you guys a little bit about how accessibility lawsuits in America work.
Mm.
There's the American Disabilities Act, the ADA, which is a federal statute, and then there are kind of more lenient and liberal and broad statutes in more liberal places like New York City and the entirety of California. Um, Bottom line, for the most part, the way these work is that you are sued and they will frighten you with these giant demands for money. But in reality, with the exception of maybe certain portions of the most like liberal city-based human rights laws, these are not suits for damages. These are suits for an injunction. So what you have to do is you have to not fall for the trick. And the secret is you don't fight them. You just settle. And where this matters though is that in real life where they sue you over like a missing on ramp or something, or wheelchair ramp, or like a your store is too narrow, you have to make giant changes. And what they try to do, and the racket that they run now, is that they will try to get you to hire their engineer for like $50,000 to rewrite your whole website, top to bottom, for no reason. Basically, ruin the website, make it not accessible for regular people, and on top of
Mm.
that, charge you a giant amount of money. They call it structured settlements, where they keep checking in on you. You're paying their experts. They may well be kicking that money under the table back to the expert. So what you do, and what I've had success with and I've enjoyed, is you just hire accessiBe, because accessiBe offers a widget which overwrites like it's an overlay. So it doesn't gouge your website, it doesn't rewrite it or dig it up from the foundation up, and it's much cheaper. And they really can't complain because judges so far have actually asked for compliance at a lower level. Basically, what you do is these people don't want to do any work. So what you do is you just don't concede the money. You get accessiBe. You say, I'm only going to fight you on your attorney's fees. Because all they get is attorney's fees. There's no damages. So I've had a fantastic amount of success with accessiBe, more than with other providers. I initially met them because a client of mine was using them, and someone high ranking at accessiBe was willing to like be on the phone with the judge at like a weird hour in Israel, like sitting there and walking through it step by step. I thought that was very cool and very helpful. That resonated with me. Um, Other than that, I mean, There's really not much more to say. It's not. It's just. It's a little frightening that you can be sued in New York City for
Mm.
selling, you know, Christ figurines in Oklahoma, in theory, on the internet, right? Like it's crazy, but you
Yep.
can, and but again, the problem is it's just not worth it to fight with them over whether you're liable because they can't get damages, but they can get attorney's fees for fighting you. So you got to just not fight them. You got to
And
just not.
Jan, do websites have to comply? I know that this is a question that has come up often, and everyone's sitting here scratching their heads, going, "Wait a minute, accessibility. I understand it from a moral perspective, from a legal perspective. Do websites fall under ADA compliance? I know there's a number of redundancies, 508, civil rights laws, but do I need to actually be compliant?"
Probably yes. Let's put it this way: it's not worth litigating. This goes
Mm,
depending on what. Certainly, Amazon, yes, right? But like that figurine store I mentioned earlier, there might be some exceptions, but it doesn't matter. It's not worth litigating that. What are you gonna? Like, there's no way to win. What are you gonna do? Take the guy's wheelchair if you win? Like, there's nothing you're doing. You're not. There's no value proposition to you. So it's not worth fighting over. So that's really, and that's how they get you. It's really bullying in many ways, right? Because it's just not worth the fight.
sure.
So now, if you want to get clever and like get cute, and you want to ask, well, do you have to follow an order? I suppose not. These people are lazy. I guess you could just ignore the judgment and make them have the federal court hold you in contempt. I guess you could do that if you really wanted to, if you're feeling brave. But I feel like you should just pay excessive fee because it's kind of cheap, right?
Right.
And at that point,
No, I love it. Yeah, absolutely. From an agency's perspective, Jimmy, if you can, I guess, just chime in a little bit and talk about how you leverage accessibility, present it to your clients. What does it mean for you, accessibility?
Well, it's accessibility. This is for those who own an agency or those who are part of an agency. It's I'm still surprised. It's relatively new for a lot of us, and I only really found out about it a couple of years ago. And as an agency, I guess the big dilemma here is who's responsible for making sure a website is accessible. From the agency side, from the client side, and then you take into account the big box type websites like Squarespace and all those, which I've had conversations with all of these different platforms, and they take no responsibility for making sure your website is accessible. So now it puts it puts everything back on to whoever's creating the site. And if you're the business owner, you're not even working with an agency, you don't know these things. So
Right.
and to Jan's point, um, I definitely look at it from a moral standpoint of who's going to be responsible. There's nothing worse for an agency to hear a client come back to him and go, "Hey, why is my website not accessible when you built it?" you know, and we're going and it's a tough thing to talk about after, and then you're hitting them with another fee. And the funny thing is, recently I had a client I used to consult reach out to me because she was actually being sued for this, and this was around the time that I actually started to also interact with accessiBe, and they were great to help her, but unfortunately it was too late. It was already served, and she was in Georgia. She had a great website around the theme of Christmas, and it was like in July. So they caught her like really early, and she was doing about 100,000 visitors a month. So and I don't know if they target you based on certain aspects of that, but she ended up having to pay 10K. I'll just without saying who it is. So at that point, she still had to get something. I'm like, look, you still have to put something on, and she even hired us to try to fix some things. So we actually added accessibility, and then we went in and we were able to fix a few extra things. But still, we still had to charge her a couple of grand because we're not cheap as an agency. And I said, most of the stuff can be covered by the tool, and the only things we fixed were things that were still fixed by accessibility, but she just wanted that extra protection. So it's a great investment for them. For any businesses that have websites that are, whether it's 10 pages or 100,000 pages, this tool is extremely this is a great option versus someone going in and trying to rewrite your code, because it's no one can afford that. Even major companies are going to get hit hard if they try to do it the old school way and try to rewrite the code. You don't want that, and the tool makes it a lot easier for people to access only the things that they need to access based on what their disability may be.
Yeah, and that's a really good point also, because I think up until this point, as we're speaking about this, we're talking about it in ethereal terms, and there's a lot of presumptions here, as though people even understand what it is we're talking about when we talk about this tool, this solution. Um, Ultimately, what accessiBe is doing is empowering the user by giving them the tools that they need to redesign the site as they see fit. So there's all kinds of adjustments that they can make. In fact, we even provide a few preloaded profiles. I'm going off script over here, but I think it'd be valuable for y'all to see. All right. Let me go ahead. Let me share my screen, and I'm going to just quickly show you what this tool does. Let's see if this works. Yes. All right. So if we take a look, okay, this is a demo site that we created. And if you want, you can even play along with me, okay, everyone in the audience. It's very simple. What we did was built a standard ecom website. I know 70% of the web is made up of ecom, so that's why our representation is going to be of such. But if you look in the bottom left, right, here is the button that sits on the site. And what happens is the user comes in, they're able to open up the interface, and they're presented with a number of options. So again, these changes that are being made, they're not permanently changing the site. This is only taking place client sized. So no matter what happens, they can come in and readjust the font size, color, contrast, so on and so forth, right? This is all only going to be done on the display of the user. And it's important to remember that there is no one size fits all for accessibility. Of course, you have to do it within the legal confines, and this is bringing it in within the WCAG 2.1 at the double A level, right? Multiple versions of the WCAG, the latest being the 2.1. And that's what this is doing. So it's giving the users the tools. Now, this is all fine and good, right? You must have tools like this inevitably on a site in order for it to achieve compliance, because ultimately you're not going to build a site that does not have a moving GIF, or perhaps a slider, or perhaps, I don't know, color contrasts or font sizes, right? That you're not going to allow the user to adjust. So there's going to be something there, but it's much more than just some free widget that you can throw up. Now, there's also the AI aspect of what accessiBe is doing. And this is where the true power lies. So I'm just going to do this quickly because this is really right off the cuff, all right? But I want to show you so you can have more of an understanding of what we're talking about here. Freestyle, that's the way we do it, baby. From New York. Let's go. So if we take a look at this image, we can see it's just a JPEG file, right? There's no alt text here. Over 70% of the WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, they're talking about things that impact technologies to navigate the web. So think about a user who is blind who relies on a screen reader, right? So that's what the screen reader does, is pick up those alt text on the images and it reads it back out. It helps with SEO as well. It's tremendous. And I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. But you can see that this image does not have any. So what we did was create a system so that when a blind user enters the site, we simply give them an audio prompt. This way, they don't have to go in and look for the icon. Simply ask them to please turn on accessibility. And I'm not sharing my audio, otherwise you'd hear the little chime, but you see in real time, we've gone in and now applied the description site-wide, all images. All ARIA attributes have been applied. And now the user is able to navigate through the site. And again, this is all done via automation. We have an algorithm with a number of technologies that are incorporated, one of them being OCR, for character recognition, the other one is iris, and based on various data points from within the image, it's able to put out a description. This is really important for accessibility, and now let's tie it up with how does this impact our ROI? Well, let's take a look. Not just an insurance policy of sorts, right? That's how a lot of partners would look at it. A lot of agencies say, look, just like SSL, privacy, this is a requirement, include it in in the tech stack. It's also a way to increase revenue. Again, with that market share, the 26% of just the US population alone being disabled, there's over $1.2 trillion in spending power that they have. So don't you want to cater to that demographic? Additionally, let's talk about SEO and bounce rates. With more folks being able to access the site and spend more time on it, that will increase the ranking, it will increase their SEO, and it will ultimately do good on the back end as well. Um, I guess, Jimmy, I want to put the ball in your court for a second and just
Sure.
ask you, how have you been presenting this to clients? How have you been stressing the importance? You talk about the legal, you do a hybrid approach of it's a legal requirement plus there is good that comes out of this. Do you offer complimentary trials, which I know is something that we do? What is your
Yeah,
approach?
I tend to be definitely more proactive. So, I think education is a big aspect of this. Doing webinars. I think I have one coming up with rent. I can't forget. I forgot his name. Remy coming up soon. But it's a combination of that and definitely integrating it into the package because at the end of the day, the clients want the best. They want the best option and the best opportunity for their websites to thrive. So, being able to integrate it into, say, a monthly maintenance package is a
Hmm,
key element here because it does cover things that we don't have either the manpower to do or the human capacity to do, or want to or build a client extra because we're trying to save them a bit of money. We're trying to do the right thing for them. So the tool becomes a great opportunity to continue to build rapport with the client, let them know that and the funny thing is sometimes when they're shopping around and we mention accessibility and other agencies haven't, it already shows that we're kind of cutting edge. We're really focused on the now. When
yes.
we there was a great statistic that came out recently that said there were 4.3 million new businesses that were filed at the beginning of the pandemic, which was up from 2019. And what that means, and it goes back to what you said earlier, that there's so much competition. There's so many websites on. Now you've got even more piling on. You've got everybody is online now because if you're not online, you're invisible. If for some reason this pandemic was to continue, you know, this is it. This is how you're being found. This is how you're able to interact with people. And this again, now this also becomes a competitive advantage, for your business, so you can get that. So that from the SEO side, from the competitive advantage side, from the moral side, from the client acquisition side, it just serves you across the board, no matter what you're doing. So it's almost ludicrous for you not to do this in some shape, way, or form.
Yeah, yeah. And Alicia, I know that you're a bit of a prolific member in the world, really. I mean, TED Talk speaker, celebrity of sorts.
Mm.
Is it fair to ask if there is a, I guess, tight knit community within people with disabilities? Are there a lot of referrals? Are there, I guess, just interactions between everyone and talking about who's doing what correctly?
I mean, yeah, and it's louder than ever, especially in the last couple of years with all the, social injustice and all the conversations that we're having with diversity, equity, inclusion in the workplace. And I would say one more value proposition of adding a tool like this to clients' websites is it's showing that you have some stake in that game as well, that you care about diversity within, every customer's environment. And that has value towards each one of your customers as well, whether it's for your employees or somebody who's buying from you. So that piece is really, really huge. And I agree, education is really, really important. And I talk about these things all the time right now: inclusion in the workplace, accessibility, why it's important, how, what the value is for all of us. And when you start having these conversations about return on investment, how it benefits all of us, how it affects all of us, and we start shifting that conversation, it's literally a no brainer. On top of that, these tools, able-bodied people like to use them. Able-bodied
Yes.
people like larger font. Able-bodied people like an easier way to use a website. So when you have those tools for everyone to choose from, it makes it a much more seamless experience in itself. So it's a win-win for everyone, really.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that disabilities can be temporal as well, right? So if as we age, our health begins to decline, maybe our vision does too, right? We will inevitably be relying on some form of technology to assist us. I know from personal experience, I mean, this is nothing compared to what people live with every day, but I am an avid mountain biker, and I watched a YouTube video and said, "Yeah, no problem, I could do it." Ended up breaking both my elbow as well as my wrist on the right hand, so I could not use a mouse. And what came to see was that there were so many websites whereby I couldn't just navigate it using the keyboard. It was almost impossible. And I mean, the current stat is 98% of all websites are not compliant, which is too many. But it really impacts you once you begin to see even some of the more prolific websites out there that we visit on a daily basis. They're not compliant either, and they're missing out on so many more interactions. So many more interactions. Um, to take it back to the legal side for just a minute, Jan, do we have an accurate number of how many of these demand letters, lawsuits are being
So I
filed?
go ahead. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'll just preface this by saying that I know lawsuits need to be filed and that could be a public record, but with demand letters, that's not necessarily the case.
There's
Is that
really
correct?
there's only two options, in my opinion, with a demand letter. One is to ignore it, and the other is to respond with some sort of either a crude joke or maybe a photocopy of something inappropriate. You never, ever pay anyone for a demand letter. It's a
Yeah.
shakedown, obviously. I mean, there are probably I could have sent out 100 demand letters while I was waiting for my turn. I mean, it's that easy, right? I've got demand letters. My clients have got demand letters from all kinds of jackasses. So you just don't respond to it. You make them sue you. You make them go through the effort. Because the whole point here is that they don't want to show what kind of they don't want to have to prove legal fees. And there's no real damages, right? So look, at the end of the day, I think that the point here is this. It's a little scary that you can get sued in the middle of nowhere just because you have a website. I'm not even sure that's fair, really. And I'm not here to tell you about inclusion or diversity. I don't care about any of that. I'm just telling you that if you get sued, they'll help you and they'll work with you. And on top of that, it's kind of cheap, and it's just a horrible headache. And there's so many headaches for business people as is, right? And it's just
Mhm.
one less thing to worry about. And I think the part that resonates with me, because a lot of these other issues I don't know about. I don't know what kind of money people who are disabled are spending. I don't know if it's a value add. It sounds like it probably is, especially how cheap it is. The bottom line is, when you get sued in something like this, you want a company that actually answers the phone, or I guess the email in this case. So the fact that accessiBe and one of its executives, I think, or at least a high-ranking engineer, went out of his way in order to help us win that case and beat this particular shakedown resonated with me a lot. That's why I'm here, actually. So I strongly, for that reason, I don't know. You can talk about all the other issues. It's just if you get sued, and no one enjoys this process of being shaken down for $10,000 or $20,000, even if you know you're not going to lose. It's just very stressful. So from that perspective, I don't know. I don't think accessibility is that much. So
So accessiBe, we offer a partner program because again, we do have, and I know this is cheesy, but it's very sincere. We want to make the entire internet accessible by 2025. And it's an extremely lofty goal that, quite frankly, we just don't have the manpower to do on our own. And we need partners like you to help us get there. So we've created a partners program that is first in its class in that it's completely free to join. There are no minimums, no quotas you need to reach, and becoming a partner gives you a number of perks. So you get a free complimentary license to your website. We give you discounts on all the clients that you bring over. We have an affiliate link that you can use as well. We have a white labeling program so you can brand it as your own if you would like. And most importantly, we have our success team, which I help lead, that will develop a strategy with you to roll this out to your clients. All kinds of marketing collateral. Something that we've seen to be extremely effective right now has been to simply offer complimentary 30-day licenses to everyone. We have the email cadence to support this, but it's essentially saying, look, this is a legal requirement. We partnered with the number one provider of accessibility, and we've worked out an arrangement whereby we're going to give you a free 30-day trial, 30-day license. At the end of the 30 days, what you're doing is giving them the option to opt out of using accessiBe. And that's perfectly fine, right? We have partners who will have them sign a waiver or maybe just write an email saying, hey, look, thank you for this opportunity. I understand the legal risks that come along with this, and we just will take it upon ourselves, right? When you employ a type of strategy such as this, you were seeing about an 80% adoption rate. It's highly effective, and that is what is making the web accessible. And we can't do it without you. So I'm going to go in below. I'm going to add a link where you can come sign up. You can learn more. You can schedule a call with somebody on my team. For all you know, it might be me. And we would love to help you along on this journey with accessibility to learn more. There are a few other products that we are offering as well. So we like to think of accessibility as a journey rather than a destination. Okay, you're never finished with the work you're doing. Part of what accessiBe does is it will, again, it takes 48 hours once you apply a line of JavaScript. So it's essentially code agnostic. It'll work on any platform, anything that receives JavaScript. Once you apply it to the site, it takes 48 hours to run its course. At that point, all the options are there for the user. And it provides ongoing, continuous maintenance as well. So again, for the example of ecom, anytime a product is added, anytime a new page is created, we will in real time add all text to those images. We will in real time make sure that those pages are compliant as well. We provide the litigation support comes along with every single license we extend. So if for any reason one of your client site is called into question, we help and provide all the supporting documentation, supporting suggested responses to attorneys, so on. So we absolutely help out in every regard. But I do implore you to come check us out to learn a little bit more. And I'm going into the chat right now to share that link. I wanna open up the floor. I'm actually not even sure how much more time we have, but hopefully we didn't go too long over. And if we do have time left, I wanna hear from you. I want to hear questions from the audience because this is new territory. I'm sure everyone's brains are racking right now as to just the technology side, legal side, the every aspect. So I want to see your questions and I want to answer them for you as well. So whatever you got, please lay it on us. And while you do, I'll share that link.
You can't ask legal questions that don't relate to accessibility. That's cheating.
Yan can help you get out of parking tickets, but you gotta hit him up privately.
Oh God, I didn't mean that. Why that? Of all things.
Legal? I don't know.
That is legal. I guess.
Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you so much for the insightful debate. And I do have a few questions that came to me not on the platform but through email. I think the first one is a legal question, by the way, Jan. I'm sorry. So it was about then. What's the difference between the demand letter and the legal case? What is the big thing that makes the counterparts take the action? Do they think they're going to win? What makes them think they're going to win?
Well, that's the response of saying, what's the difference between a super soaker and an AK-47? Well, one of them fires bullets, the other fires water. So that's the difference. A demand letter is just a threat of "I'll sue you if you don't settle." There's no court presently that can enforce a judgment against you whether you choose to answer or not. So that's the thing about court, right? It's sort of an involuntary friendship. Whether or not you like them, they get to like you. That's how it works. Whereas a demand letter, they have to sue you. They have to go through the process. And if they claim, well, it'll be even more, no, it won't. Because again, they're just suing you to make you correct it. There's no damages. So they can argue you ignored my demand letter. Okay, I did. Okay, I felt like it was. I didn't want to settle at that point. Okay, sure. You think the court's going to care? You think that matters? Like, we'll say, yeah, Your Honor, you send out all these demand letters. And besides, a demand letter, you don't want to settle because then the other advantage of settling when they sue you is that when they sue you and you settle, there's a people can't see the settlement online when they search, but they can see that you've been sued and then that the lawsuit went away or stopped being. There'll be this continuance. What that means is to other people who are looking through the shakedown, they know there's a good chance you already used something to fix it. The only time you fight these people is if you had accessiBe or something like it before they sue you. And they don't want to deal with that. So when you settle a lawsuit publicly like that, or at least semi-publicly, it has a deterrent effect on future vultures coming to visit you. So what you do is you do that publicly. There's no advantage to a demand letter. So then the next guy who's blind will send you another demand letter. And you're like, what are you going to tell him? No, I settled with someone else? No, you make them sue you. So if you're getting to that point, you've got a demand letter, at that point, just ignore it.
Okay. So one more question I have is actually, I think this could be for Jimmy or Hans as well. What should agencies do now? I mean, as in right now, after listening to this, what is the next logical step?
If I could jump in first, I mean, they have an incredible program, and that's, like I said, for me, when I first came in, this is where I started to really understand what was going on and how I could be a part of this conversation and how I can stand out from my competition. So the program is free, and the education you get is priceless, and now you can pass that education on to your clients. And like I said, it puts you at the forefront. It puts you in a position to be an authority, to be an expert. And when I say expert, I'm just pointing them to the experts. So this is a situation where we do a lot of affiliate based programming with other companies, but not like this. And like I said, and I'm kind of giving Hans and the whole team a bit of a big head here. I can call them and they'll take over from me to really work with and talk with the clients, which then again frees up my time to do other things. So from an agency side of the standpoint, it's a huge win opportunity. So that right there would be the only thing I think about doing next, especially if you're not offering any level of accessibility for your clients.
I just got another question
That
that
was
came in.
brilliant.
Again, for Jimmy, we'll come back to this point, but another question came in.
Okay.
And isn't providing accessibility a big agency thing? That's the question. Does it work for small agencies?
I am a small agency. And I think it works even better for a small agency. Why? Because we don't have the human capacity to deal with this. So for us, it provides another source of income for us because we have tons of flexibility in regards to offering and pricing and integrating it into our offering. And again, it just gives us the ability to do something on a bigger scale. Because think about it, as a small agency, you're a small agency with a major company like accessiBe behind you.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. And I think, Hans, you just wanted to say something, I guess. I just stopped you with the other question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it was just going to be a follow-up there, and it is what to do immediately after this, how to find out more. And I know that we're going to be sending out links afterward for you guys to sign up, but also we do host monthly webinars for our partners, which you can certainly join. And what we like to do is have one of our more successful partners come and showcase some of the tactics that they use in order to help onboard their clients. So it's a great initiative, and join us at the very least for that, or sign up directly and learn more, and hopefully we'll chat
Well,
directly.
we will share all the links on how to contact accessiBe in the email we send out after the webinar. Another question came in, and that's on public sector players are under regulatory pressure. So they are earlier adopters by default. On the private side of things, what is the situation is the first question. And then there's a follow-up to the same question is, should we expect big tech players to champion and promote incorporating accessibility like Google promoting sites that are accessible on their search rankings? Who would like to answer that?
Yes. I think everyone has something to say to this effect, but I'll
Cool.
just say, yes, I think that it is incumbent on all of us to really educate our clients at the very least, because they might not even know that accessibility is a thing. Not so much that it's a legal requirement, but even the fact that it will help boost their ROI. It'll affect their bottom line. And that is what we like to focus on. Because, of course, we can get into the whole scare tactics of the legal side of things, and yes, fear sells. But ultimately, it's about the person on the other side and doing good for this marginalized community, which I think Alycia can speak much more elegantly to than I can.
Yep. So, Alicia, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah,
Because Hans, I'm sorry, Hans did already ask you about the community side of things, and I wanted to also ask, adding up to this question, when you come across a website that just works beautifully for any kind of disability, does that put a smile on your face? Is it something then you just send back to people, check this out, or does it create that kind of effect?
I mean, of course, it always feels good to be included and be represented and be included in the conversation as a whole, in our society today. And accessibility is everything that ableism is not. Ableism is, you're better if you're able-bodied than have a disability, and a lot of us are going to have some type of disability. So again, this really benefits all of us, and it pushes forward a society that is accessible literally for the globe as a whole. So it's highly important, and it's personally, it feels amazing. Absolutely.
Fantastic. So these are the questions that came in, and can I have final remarks? I mean, I'm really happy with the different side of the state that I've been hearing, and it was an education for me because, to be honest, this wasn't something huge on our agenda either. I cannot just hand on heart say that we've been doing fantastic on this front until very recently. So let me take any final remarks. Shall I start with Jimmy? I'm just picking and choosing now.
Absolutely. And just like Alycia said, DEI is the talk of the town. And now this just makes my mind think about DEI for tech. They talk about it for human resources, they talk about it for finance, but I don't think I hear enough about it for tech. And this is that having that conversation for tech. So I say, for as an agency, my final thought and takeaway, or comment is, you need to take the initiative and really focus on making sure that your agency is doing everything it's in its power on behalf of your clients, so they can do everything in their power on behalf of their clients.
Mhm. That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jan.
I was
Anything
speaking with,
else? I'm sorry. Sorry,
again, it's
Hans.
the lag. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm even getting an echo, so I'm just winging this whole thing. I wanted to share a conversation I
We
had
are
recently
testing
with
you
a partner of mine.
with a synthetic disability. We're putting echo in your ears
Yes,
so that to see.
yes, yes. It's that Doppler effect. I'll just move forward and back. So I'm going to take these off, really. So I wanted to share a conversation that I had recently with a partner who caters to the legal community, and they build websites strictly for attorneys. And one of their attorneys told them that they are required to build the site accessible, lest they be found liable for providing a defective product. And I thought that was really interesting to think about. I don't know what the actual legal bearing is on that. I'm sure you can find case study after case study, but just that way of thinking about it, paradigm shift in my mind was like, yes, of course, if we're going to deliver a complete package, accessibility must be in there. It's not a question. So I just wanted to leave you all with that.
Okay. Well, thank you. Jan, do you want to add anything to that?
Um, Not particularly. Look, at the end of the day, I don't think anyone should be forced to comply or do anything if they don't feel they have to. But this is the system we're in, and the laws do allow for it. And I don't think you want to expose yourself to being sued for no reason. So that's it. So it's just too cheap. That's it.
Okay. Alycia, any final comments?
I mean, I agree with what Jimmy said. I think implementing a tool like this and a company behind you and allowing these services to support the tough conversations that your client might be almost afraid to have because they don't know how to dive into this is really important. And inclusion in website accessibility, it recognizes all of us, but it requires all of us to take part in, and we need to recognize that and move forward. That's it.
With that, I thank all of our speakers, starting with Hans, Alycia, Jimmy, and Jan. And thank you to accessiBe for bringing this topic, all the speakers, and sponsoring the show. And thank you so much, everyone. We will be putting this broadcast on our website so you can have a look at it. And then you will find ways to contact the speakers and accessiBe through that link. Thank you so much for tuning in and hope to see you again at another event. Bye bye.